Ben Wilson, a 63-year-old retired school bus driver, was sitting in his warm kitchen, drinking his morning coffee. Outside, the wind howled, and thick snowflakes blew past his frosted window. Winter had hit the small town hard. The streets were quiet, the sidewalks empty, and everything was covered in white. Ben was used to quiet mornings now. He didn't drive kids to school anymore, and his days were slow and peaceful. He liked it that way, but something outside caught his eye. At first, he thought it was just another lump of snow near the old bus stop across the street. Maybe a pile left by the snowplow. But something about the shape didn't feel right. It was too still, too smooth, almost like it had been placed there on purpose. Ben leaned closer to the window, squinting. Then he grabbed his glasses from the table and looked again. That's when he saw it, a small black nose poking out from something dark. He blinked, not sure if he was seeing right. He moved to the door and opened it just a crack. The cold air rushed in like a slap to the face. The wind was sharp, and the snow fell sideways. But now he could see it clearly. There was a puppy. She was curled up tightly inside a half-open school backpack. Her body was almost hidden, but her nose and eyes were showing. Her eyes were wide, scared, and staring out at the road, like she was waiting for someone to come back. Ben's heart dropped. He didn't stop to think. He just moved. He pulled on his old winter coat, grabbed his snow boots, and stepped outside. The snow crunched under his feet as he walked as quickly as he could to the little shape by the bus stop. The puppy didn't move when he got closer. She didn't bark or growl. She just lay there, shaking from the cold, her fur dusted with snow. Her paws were red, and her ears were flat against her head. "Oh, you poor thing," Ben whispered. He knelt down, his knees pressing into the snow, and gently touched the backpack. It was cold and wet, but the puppy was still breathing. Carefully, he picked up the whole bag, puppy and all, and held it close to his chest. "I've got you now," he said softly. "You're not alone." As he turned and walked back to his house, the puppy didn't struggle. She just looked up at him with those sad, hopeful eyes. Ben had no idea who she was or why she had been left there. But one thing was already clear. This wasn't just a snowstorm. It was the beginning of something unexpected. And something important. The puppy didn't run when Ben brought her inside. She didn't bark or hide. She just lay there shivering, her body stiff with cold and fear. Her paws were red, almost raw, from walking or standing too long in the snow. Ben gently placed the backpack near the radiator, the warmest spot in his small living room. The puppy stayed inside the bag, peeking out, her big eyes following his every move. She looked scared, but too tired to move. "It's okay, girl," Ben said softly. "You're safe now." As he hung up his coat, he noticed something sticking out of the backpack's side pocket. It was a small piece of paper, folded over and a little wet from the snow. His fingers, still cold and shaking, carefully pulled it out and unfolded it. There were only a few words, written in messy handwriting. "Her name is Luna. I'm sorry I had to. Please be kind, she's good." That was it. No name, no phone number, no reason. Just that one simple message. Ben sat down in his old armchair, the note still in his hand. He looked over at the puppy, Luna. She was staring out the window now, like she was waiting for someone to come back. Ben felt a heavy sadness in his chest. This wasn't just a lost dog. Someone had left her on purpose. Someone had carried her to the bus stop in that backpack, zipped her in gently, and walked away in the middle of a snowstorm. But why? Maybe it was a kid. Maybe they didn't want to let her go, but they had no choice. Maybe they were scared or trying to protect her the only way they knew how. Ben's heart ached. He had no children of his own, but he had driven a school bus for over 30 years. He knew what heartbreak looked like on a child's face. He looked at the note again, reading the words slowly, as if they might tell him more the second time. She's good. She was. She hadn't made a sound. She hadn't moved an inch, just sat there quietly hoping. Ben stood up and grabbed a soft towel from the hallway closet. He laid it beside the backpack, hoping Luna might feel comfortable enough to stretch out. But she didn't move. She just curled up tighter. He didn't push her. He just sat nearby and turned on a small lamp, letting the room glow softly. He knew one thing for sure. Luna needed someone. And maybe, just maybe, so did he. Ben carried Luna into the house carefully, making sure not to jostle her too much. She was still inside the backpack, her little body curled up tightly, like she didn't trust the world anymore. The house was quiet and warm. The smell of old books and fresh coffee hung in the air. Ben gently placed the backpack near the radiator again, where the heat would reach her. He opened it a bit more, letting her crawl out if she wanted to. But Luna didn't move. "It's all right," he said gently. "Take your time." He sat on the couch nearby, watching her. Every few minutes, she would blink and glance around the room, but she didn't leave the bag. She looked unsure, like she didn't know if it was safe. Ben remembered the dog food he had in the back of his pantry. He hadn't bought it in years, not since his old beagle Rosie passed away. Still, he kept a few cans, just in case a neighbor's dog visited or wandered over. He opened one of the cans and poured it into a small bowl. Then he warmed it up slightly in the microwave, hoping the smell would tempt her. When he placed the bowl near her, Luna didn't move right away. She sniffed the air, but didn't reach for it. Ben took a step back and sat down again, giving her space. After a minute, she slowly crept forward, her paws quiet on the wooden floor. She walked in a low crouch, like she was afraid the food would vanish or someone would take it away. Her ribs showed slightly under her soft fur. She hadn't eaten well in days. She sniffed the food again, then took a careful bite, then another, then more. Ben felt relief flood through him. "That's it, girl," he whispered. "Good girl." When she finished eating, Luna went back to the backpack. She didn't even glance at the soft towel Ben had laid out beside it. She curled into the same tight ball, nose tucked under her tail. It was clear. The backpack was her safe place. Maybe it smelled like home. Maybe it was the last thing that reminded her of her boy. That night, Ben left a small lamp on in the living room. He checked on her a few times before bed. She hadn't moved much, but her eyes followed him each time he passed by. He made himself a bed on the couch, not wanting to leave her alone downstairs, just in case she woke up afraid. Outside, the wind was still blowing. Snow still fell softly against the windows. But inside, something had changed. Luna wasn't just a stray anymore. She had a place to rest, a place to begin healing. And Ben? He had something he hadn't expected. A quiet reason to care again. Ben couldn't stop thinking about the note. He read it over and over again. "Her name is Luna. I'm sorry I had to. Please be kind. She's good." The words stuck in his mind like a puzzle with missing pieces. Why would someone leave behind a sweet puppy like Luna? Every day, Luna sat by the window at the same time, 3:17 p.m. She would jump up to the couch, rest her front paws on the windowsill, and stare out at the snowy road. Her ears perked up at the sound of every passing car. But when the road stayed empty, her tail would slowly lower again. Ben noticed she always waited at that exact time. He realized something. 3:17 was when the school bus used to arrive when he was still driving. Maybe it still did. Maybe someone used to get off that bus to see her. "Was it your boy?" Ben asked her one afternoon. "Is that who you're waiting for?" Luna didn't move. She just kept watching. That night, Ben sat down at his desk with his old phone book. He started calling around, local animal shelters, vet clinics, even the school district office. He told them about Luna, the note, and the backpack at the bus stop. Most people hadn't heard anything. Some promised to call back if they learned something. Then on the third day, a kind voice on the phone made Ben sit up straight. It was Mrs. Carter, the secretary from the nearby elementary school. "Sir," she said softly, "there was a boy who went missing a few days ago, right before the snowstorm hit." Ben's heart beat faster. "Did he have a dog?" "Yes," she replied. "A German Shepherd puppy. He took her everywhere. The teachers used to let her stay tied up outside the office." Ben looked at Luna, still sitting by the window, still hoping. "What's his name?" he asked. "Jake," Mrs. Carter answered. "He's 11. His parents were having some problems. He'd been staying with relatives, but things got worse. Then he just disappeared one day after school." Ben felt a heavy sadness settle in his chest. It was all beginning to make sense. Jake must have loved Luna deeply, but something had happened. Maybe he thought he was protecting her by leaving her where someone kind would find her. "I have her here," Ben said quietly. "She's okay, safe and warm." There was a long pause. "Jake needs to know that," she whispered. Ben promised to do whatever he could. After the call, he looked at Luna again. She was still by the window. "I think I found your boy," he said gently. Her ears twitched, but she didn't look away from the snowy road. Maybe, just maybe, she knew. Ben finally got the call he had been hoping for. The social worker had found Jake. The boy was safe, staying with a foster family in a nearby town. He was quiet, not saying much. But when they mentioned Luna, his whole face had changed. He asked over and over again, "Is she okay? Is she really okay?" Ben offered to bring Luna to him. The drive was quiet. Luna sat in the back seat, her nose pressed to the window, ears alert. It was like she knew this wasn't just any trip. Ben glanced at her through the mirror. "Almost there, girl," he said softly. "He's waiting." When they arrived, the foster home was a small, cozy place with a white porch and wind chimes that danced in the breeze. Jake stood on the steps. He looked smaller than Ben expected, with messy brown hair and eyes too old for his age. As soon as Luna saw him, something changed. She barked once, sharp and full of hope, and jumped out of the car before Ben could grab the leash. She ran straight to Jake. "Luna!" he cried, his voice breaking as he dropped to his knees. She reached him in seconds, her body trembling with joy. Her tail wagged wildly, and she pushed her head into his chest, licking his face, whining with happiness. Jake hugged her tightly, burying his face into her fur. "I'm sorry," he whispered again and again. "I didn't want to leave you. I had to. I didn't know what else to do." Luna made no sound except soft, happy whimpers. She didn't care about the past. She had found her boy. That was all that mattered. Ben stood quietly near the car, his heart full. His eyes were wet, though he didn't quite know when the tears had started. He had only known Luna for a short time, but he felt like she had changed something in him, opened a space that had been quiet for too long. The foster parents watched too, their hands over their mouths. Jake finally looked up. "Thank you," he said, voice shaking. Ben nodded. "She waited for you. Every day." And now, at last, she didn't have to wait anymore. Even though Jake and Luna were finally back together, things weren't perfect yet. Jake's new foster family loved animals, but they already had a small dog and 2 cats. They told the social worker they needed some time before they could take in another pet. Jake understood, but it hurt. Ben saw the sadness in Jake's eyes when they said goodbye that day. "Can I still see her?" Jake asked quietly, holding Luna's leash loosely. Ben knelt beside him. "Of course you can. Every weekend if you want. I'll bring her to you." Jake's face lit up with a small, hopeful smile. Really? Really, Ben said with a nod. So that's what they did. Every Saturday, Ben would drive Luna to visit Jake. Each time, she would jump into the car as soon as she saw the leash. She knew exactly where they were going. On those visits, Jake would play fetch with her in the backyard. He would brush her fur, talk to her like she was his best friend, and sometimes just lie beside her on the grass. Slowly, Luna stopped sleeping in the backpack. She began to curl up on the soft dog bed Ben bought her, or by his feet near the heater. She still waited by the window at 317, but only sometimes now. Then, one sunny afternoon, the social worker brought good news. Jake was going to be adopted by a kind family who lived 2 hours away. Jake's first question was, "Can Luna still visit me?" Ben smiled and put a hand on his shoulder. "Whenever you want, buddy." Luna's life was different now, but it was full of love. She had 2 homes. Ben's quiet little house where the mornings were slow and peaceful, and Jake's new home, full of laughter and young voices. Every 2 weeks, Ben made the 2-hour drive to bring Luna to see Jake. And every time, her tail wagged like crazy as they neared his street. At Jake's house, Luna was part of the family. She played in the yard, curled up beside Jake while he read, and slept at the foot of his bed. Jake's new parents adored her, even though she wasn't there every day. They called her our weekend girl. Back at Ben's house, Luna brought something he hadn't felt in a long time: comfort. She followed him from room to room, rested her head on his lap during TV time, and nudged his hand when she wanted affection. Ben kept the old backpack on the bench near the door. He never threw it away. It reminded him of the day she came into his life, the scared little puppy waiting in the snow. Now she had grown stronger, happier, and loved by 2 people who truly cared. Luna understood both her worlds. She never cried when it was time to leave one home because she knew she'd return to the other. Her heart had room for both. Ben sometimes looked at her and smiled to himself. She wasn't just Jake's dog anymore. She was his too. Love, he realized, doesn't always look like we expect. Sometimes it starts on a snowy morning, in a backpack by the road. And sometimes it grows quietly between 2 homes, bringing people together in the most unexpected ways.